I'm Dr Cath and today PD Insurance has asked me to talk to you about scratchy cats. So this is not itchy cats, this is cats wanting to scratch your furniture, which is something that most of us don't see as very attractive behaviour at all, particularly when it's damaging our latest couch, or maybe the wallpaper, or maybe they're ripping up the carpet. So the very first thing I want you to understand is that this is normal behaviour for cats. This scratching behaviour is actually good for them, it is necessary, it helps them keep their claws healthy. So cats have claws that need constant sharpening because they shed. But also obviously it helps them with climbing and all the other activities, like killing with claws. But also it is a territorial behaviour. So when cats are scratching, they're flexing and extending their claws, and they have scent glands in amongst their toes and pads. So when they're scratching against the surface, they're not only marking that surface with the claw marks, but they're also dumping scent on there. So it's a way of showing that they're confident in that area, this is their space, and marking that place as theirs. It also feels good. You know what it's like yourself to have a big stretch. So for cats, you'll often see them either on a horizontal surface, so maybe along the floor, or vertical surface up against a wall or a scratching post, and they do a really big stretch when they do that, scratching behaviour. So it's helping to give them a good stretch, it's helping to condition their forelimb and neck and back muscles as they're doing it. It just feels good, so why wouldn't you do it? Obviously the problem for us is when that scratching happens in areas that we don't want them to do it, like couches and wallpaper. So how do you manage that? So the easiest way to manage scratching is to provide cats with something to scratch against. So that might be a scratching post, or it might be a scratching board or a piece of carpet fixed somewhere, like a mat that you're happy for them to use. Understanding what your cat's preference is. So some cats really like those vertical surfaces that they can really stretch against, and when you see them outside it's usually against fence posts or trees. So having a tall post needs to be something that is stable and preferably fixed. So if they're going to pull it down on top of themselves, they're not likely to go back and use it again. Other cats prefer those horizontal surfaces, so maybe the underside of a stair or on the carpet. So they like stretching themselves out that way. Understanding what your cat likes and providing a scratching facility for them that suits their preference is a really good place to start. The surface, again, different cats have different preferences. Most cats seem to like the carpety type feel, or rope, or sisal. Some seem to like wallpaper. Cardboard can also work really well. So understanding what your cat's preference is. I would say with carpet, don't be worried about having a carpet covered scratching post and then encouraging your cat to scratch on your carpet. It doesn't seem to necessarily be a relationship between having one on a scratching post and the other on your floor. It's about encouraging them to use the right place. So when I say encourage them to use the right place, like I say, making sure that it's somewhere that is stable and fixed, that they can properly scratch against and really stretch out without risk of injury to themselves. Adding things like catnip or toys, particularly toys that they can chase, just to encourage them to use that area. And obviously putting it somewhere that they normally like to relax, perhaps near a sleeping area, so when they first get up they go and have a scratch, keeping it somewhere safe and nice. Praise good behaviour, so when you see them using the scratching post, it might be that you play with them for a little bit, or if they're food motivated, giving them a treat. Avoid telling them off for bad behaviour, because they'll just go and do it in secret somewhere else. Like I say, they still need to do this behaviour. If they're doing it somewhere that you really don't want them to, so corner of a couch, underneath the stairs, that sort of thing, there are a couple of things you can try to help prevent them using those areas, aside from providing them somewhere that you do want them to use. So first would be using some sort of spray on that surface. So this is not spraying your cat, this is spraying the surface you don't want them to use. So a mixture of apple cider vinegar and water sprayed on, or citrus type scents. Cat's not a big fan of citrus, so it might be a bad smell for you for a day, maybe 24 hours, but the scent will last a lot longer for cats. So if you've got somewhere that you don't want them to go, using some sort of citrus spray, it can be quite good. Just make sure to test it on the surface first, because obviously you don't want to prevent scratching only to create a big stain on maybe a nice leather couch. You can also cover the area that is being scratched with something that's not particularly attractive to cats. So double-sided tape, they don't generally like sticky tape. Obviously you don't want something that's too sticky because you don't want to cause injury to them, but you also don't want to damage furniture. Tin foil tends to be fairly unattractive to cats as well, partly because of the noise, but also it's shiny, and that's just not really a good scratching surface. If you've got wallpaper or an area of wallpaper that's particularly attractive, then potentially covering it up with some Perspex in the meantime, so that the wallpaper doesn't get damaged. It's easy to clean, but it becomes an unattractive place for your cat to want to scratch. You can carpet runners that have the kind of prickly underbase, and putting that somewhere that you don't want your cat scratching can also make it fairly unattractive. But again, you're not aiming to cause injury to your cat, so make sure it's something that's not going to cause injury and not too sharp. If you've got a scratching post and they're really determined to keep using a particular area, then putting that scratching post in that area, praising them to use it, and then gradually moving it away and making the area that you don't want scratched less attractive to them. You just need to take time to train them in with that. Obviously making sure that your cat's not getting bored, so providing plenty of toys to play with and so on as well. You can also trim your cat's nails, and that can help reduce their need to scratch as much, but more importantly it'll do less damage when they do scratch surfaces. You can also get soft paws caps, little plastic caps that can be put on your cat's toenails. You might want to talk to your vet about that, but you need to be able to handle your cat's feet pretty well to be able to put those on, because they glue on. Some cats tolerate them very well, others don't really at all. Please, whatever you do, do not consider going and talking to your vet about declawing your cat. This is a permanent procedure that is hugely painful, not allowed in New Zealand, and really has no benefit to the cat whatsoever, because they're still going to want to do that marking behaviour. It's just now become a very painful thing to do, because ultimately it is actually about, to declaw a cat means amputating the end of each finger. Imagine that yourself. Not very pleasant. Please don't even ask about doing that. It is not an option.